Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, Shelby State, Tennessee. Today's date, Sunday morning, September 29th, 2024. And the time is 11:50 a.m. First, I thank my family, my support for you. Continue to support, continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis Tri-State area, continue to further my education, more work online, continue to pursue my social reach that being my straight country. I took a break and going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna earn my social degree and as well as other degree and I'm gonna go ahead and start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right in the city of Memphis, in the county, Shelby State, Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, September 29th, 2024. The time is 11:51 a.m. First, I'm going to say thank you to my family, my support for your team, continue to keep myself employed in Memphis Tri-State area, continue to further my education in my own college line, continue to pursue my social reach that being my straight contract mark. Present time, I took a break and going to school. But in the future, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, the names of God in the Old Testament: Adonai, El Shaddai, Jehovah Jireh, El Elyon, Jehovah Rapha, El Olam, Elohim, mighty God, and the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Jehovah Shammah, El Elyon, Jehovah Rapha, the Lord that heals. Yeah, okay. Jehovah Sabaoth, Jehovah Mikot Dishkim, Alpha and Omega, Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Sikkenu, El Roy, Jehovah Ra, the Lord my shepherd, El Roy, and Jehovah and Lord. Those are some of the names of God in the Old Testament. Now let's click over. The names of God in the New Testament. And all this is coming from sources across the web. So, all right, like I said, we know names of God in the New Testament. El Shaddai, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah Roy, God the shepherd, El Olam, Jehovah Mikot Dishkim, Christ, Elohim, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Sikkenu, Jehovah Shalom, El Roy, mighty God, Jehovah, Adonai, El Elyon, and the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Alpha and Omega, Emmanuel, our shepherd. Those are names of God in the New Testament. Now let's click over here to BibleStudyTool.com. Now, okay, BibleStudyTool.com. Now, reading from the New International Version, the Bible verse of the day is coming from Proverbs. It's in the Old Testament, chapter 12, verse 25. And it reads, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And again, reading from the New International Version of the Holy Bible, the Bible verse of the day, and it came from Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25. And also, today's Bible reading, the book of Jude, chapter 1, the book of Ezra, the 9th chapter. Book of Ezra, 9 and 10. Books 9 and 10. And the book of Psalms, book of Psalm 95, the whole Psalm. So again, today's Bible read the book of Jude, chapter 1, the book of Ezra, chapter 9 and 10, and the book of Psalms 95. And of course, you got Bible study and Bible study videos. You got featured verse topics. And you have popular Bible verses. For example, the book of John, chapter 3, verse 16. The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1. The book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 6. The book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13. The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse number 2. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse number 6. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse number 11. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse number 5. And the book of Matthew, chapter 28, verse number 19. And you also have popular Bible commentaries. And today's inspiration is coming from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. Make sure it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. I'll make sure it's the same. Okay, like I said, today's inspiration, the daily verses are coming from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And it reads, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." So again, today's inspiration is coming from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. All right, Bible versions. Best known translation, the Holman Christian Standard Bible, English Standard Version, King James Version, the Mission Bible, New American Standard Bible, New International Version, New King James Version, New Living Translation, New Revised Standard Bible. We have other translations, modern, the Bible in Basic English, Common English Bible, the Complete Jewish Bible, Good News Translation, God's Word Translation, Hebrew Names Version, Jubilee Bible 2000, Lexham English Bible, New Century Version, New International Reader's Version, Orthodox Jewish Bible, Third Millennium Bible, World English Bible, Young's Literal Translation. You have older translations, American Standard Version, the Darby Translation, the Dewey Reams Catholic Bible, Revised Standard Version, Tyndale Bible, the Latin Vulgate, the Webster Bible, the Wycliffe Bible, New Testament only. And then you have Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Italian, Dutch, Chinese. So those are versions of the Holy Bible. Click over to the Bible Gateway. Coming from the New International Version. The verse of the day. Coming from the book of John, chapter 3, verse 20 through 21. And it reads, "Everyone who does evil hates the light, and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. So again, reading from the New International Version, the verse of the day, coming from the book of John, chapter 3, verses 20 to 21. All right, available versions of the Holy Bible, language and version, from A to Z. Amharic, New Amharic Standard Version, and you have Arabic Bibles, Awadi Bibles, Bulgarian Bibles, Cherokee Bible, New Testament, first Native Americans, Czechoslovakian Bibles, Welsh Bible, Danish Bible, German Bibles, English Bibles, a lot of Spanish Bibles, Persian Bibles, Farsi New Testament, Finnish Bibles, French Bibles, Greek Bibles, Hebrew Bibles, Hindi Bibles, Croatian Bibles. Now you have Haitian Creole Bible, Hungarian Bibles, Hawaii Bible, Icelandic Bible, Italian Bible, Japanese Bible, Korean Bible, Latin Bibles, Luganda Bible, Maori Bible, Macedonian Bible, Mam Central Bible, and Mam Toto Santo Bible, Low German Bible, Nepali Bible, Dutch Bible, Norwegian Bible, what's this? Chichiwa Bibles, Oriya Bibles, West Central Oromo Bibles, Punjabi Bible, Polish Bible, Papil Bibles, Portuguese Bibles, Romanian Bibles, Russian Bibles, Slavic Bibles, Somali Bible, Albanian Bible, Serbian Bible, Swedish Bible, Swahili Bible, Tamil, Thai, Tagalog Bibles, Twi Bibles, Ukrainian Bible, Urdu Bibles, Vietnamese Bible, Yoruba Bible, Chinese Bibles. So the Holy Bible is being translated. And all over the world, irregardless of language, the Holy Bible is being translated so people around the world can read the Holy Bible from Old Testament and New Testament. And that's Old Testament Jewish faith, and then when you come to the historical Jesus and the Catholic faith and Christianity, Protestant and all this stuff, non-denomination and denomination, all this stuff. But the Holy Bible is being translated, and the New Testament is Old Testament and New Testament. And so Holy Bible being translated. Now let's click over here to this Tetragrammaton. It's the 4-letter Hebrew theonym. Now we over here on Wikipedia. Now don't forget Wikipedia is a quick reference. So let me scroll down. See, also we have references, notes, and citations. Sources, external links. And then also footnotes, also. All right, so like I said, we over on Wikipedia, Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton is the 4-letter Hebrew theonym, transliterated as capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, or capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H. The name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The four letters written and read from right to left in Hebrew are YODH, HE, WAW, and HE. The name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause to become, or to come to pass. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh is now accepted almost universally among biblical and Semitic linguistic scholars, though the vocalization Jehovah continues to have wide usage. The books of the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible, except Esther, Ecclesiastes, and with a possible instance of, in verse number 8:6, the Song of Songs contains its Hebrew name. Observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Yehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether in addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Common substitutions in Hebrew are Adonai, translated my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular. Elohim, literally gods, but treated as singular when meaning God in prayer. Or Hashem, the name in everyday speech. And those four letters again, the letters properly written and read from right to left in biblical Hebrew are Yod, He, Wa, and He. Like I said, these are letters. Okay, Yod is the 10th letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician, and then Hebrew and Aramaic, Syriac and Arabic. Then you have He is the 5th letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician, Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac, and Arabic. And Wa, is the 6th letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician, and Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac, and Arabic. And He is the 5th letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician, Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac, and Arabic. Now, when it comes to the etymology, the Hebrew Bible explains about a formula. Translate, He, translate, I am that I am. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus 3:14. This would frame capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H as a derivation from the Hebrew triconsonantal root to be, become, come to pass, with a third person masculine Y prefix, equivalent to English he in place of the first person, thereby avoiding translation as he who causes to exist, he who is, etc. Although this would elicit the form capital Y, capital H, capital Y, capital H, not capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the tetragrammaton represents a substitution of the medial Y for W, and occasionally attested practice in biblical Hebrew as both letters function as matrix lectionis. Others propose that the tetragrammaton derived instead from the triconsonantal root to be, constitute with the final form eliciting similar translated though derived from HYH. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H represents a verbal form, with the Y representing the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb HYH to be, as indicated in the Hebrew Bible. Now, vocalization. Like all letters in the Hebrew script, the letters N, capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, originally indicated consonants. In unpointed biblical Hebrew, most vowels are not written, but some are indicated ambiguously, as certain letters came to have a secondary function indicating vowels, similar to the Latin use of I and V to indicate either the consonants J, W, or the vowels IU. Hebrew letters used to indicate vowels are known as or matrix lectionis, mothers of reading. Therefore, it can be difficult to deduce how a word is pronounced from its spelling, and each of the four letters in the Tetragrammaton can individually serve as a matrix lectionis. Several centuries later, between the 5th through 10th centuries, Common Era, the original consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible was provided with vowel marks by the Masoretes. To assist reading. In places where the word to be read, the kiri, differ from that indicated by the consonants of the written text. They wrote the kiri in the margin as a note showing what was to be read. In such a case, the vowel marks of the kiri were written on the kita. For a few frequent words, the marginal note was omitted. These are called kiri perpetuum. One of the frequent cases was the Tetragrammaton, which according to later rabbinic Jewish practice should not be pronounced but read as Adonai, translated my lords, pluralis majestatis, taken as singular, or if the previous or next word already was Adonai, as Elohim, God. Writing the vowel diacritics of these two words on the consonants capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital A produces, and respectively, ghost words that will spell Yehovah or Yehovah, respectively. The oldest complete or nearly complete manuscripts of the Masoretic text with Tiberian vocalizations such as the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, both for the 10th or 11th century, mostly write Yahweh with no pointing on the first H. It could be because the O diacritic point plays no useful role in distinguishing between Adonai and Elohim, and so it's redundant. Or it could point to the kiri being, which is Aramaic for the name, Yahweh. The scholarly consensus is that the original pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton was Yahweh. And R. Reno agrees that when in the late first millennium, Jewish scholars inserted indications of vowels into the Hebrew Bible, they signaled that what was pronounced was Adonai, Lord. Non-Jews later combined the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of the Tetragrammaton and invented the name Jehovah. Paul June and Takamitsu Murake state the kiri is the Lord, whilst the ketiv is probably, according to ancient witnesses, and they add note 1. In our translation, we have used Yahweh, a form widely accepted by scholars instead of traditional Jehovah. In 1869, Smith's Bible Dictionary, collaborative work of noted scholars of the time, declared, whatever, therefore, be the true pronunciation of the word, there can be little doubt that it is not Jehovah. Mar P. Arnold remarks that certain conclusions drawn from the pronunciation of as Yahweh would be valid even if the scholarly consensus were not correct. Thomas Romer holds that the original pronunciation of Yahweh was Yahoo or Yahu. Max Riesel, in The Mysterious Name of Yahweh, said that the vocalization of the Tetragrammaton must originally have been Yahuwah or Yahuwah. The element Yahweh is found in Amorite personal names, commonly denoted as the semantic equivalent of the Akkadian. The latter refers to one existing which, in the context of deities, can also refer to one's eternal existence. Excuse me. Which aligns with Bible verses such as Exodus chapter 3 verse 15 and views that can mean I am the existing one. It also explains the ease of Israelites applying the Odom or everlasting epithet from El to Yahweh. But J. Philip Hyatt believes it is more likely that Yahweh refers to a God creating and sustaining the life of a newborn child rather than the universe. This conception of God was more popular among ancient Near Easterners, but eventually the Israelites removed the association of Yahweh to any human ancestor and combined it with other elements, Yahweh. Hillel ben Sasson states there is insufficient evidence for Amorites using Yahweh to refer to a god, but he argues that it mirrors other theophoric names and that Yahweh, or more accurately, Yahweh, derived from the root HWY and Pa'el, which means he will be. Now, the adoption at the time of the Protestant Reformation of Jehovah in place of the traditional Lord in some new translation, vernacular or Latin of the biblical tetragrammaton stirred up dispute about its correctness. In 1711, Adrian Reeland published a book containing the text of the 17th century writings, 5 attacking and 5 defending it. As critical of the use of Jehovah, it incorporated writings by Johannes van den Drisch, 1616, known as Drusius, Sixtinus Amame, 1593, 1629, Louis Capel, 1585, 1658, and Johannes Buxtorf, 1564, 1629, Jacob Atling, 1618, 1679, defending Jehovah were writings by Nicholas Fuller, 1557, 1626, and Thomas Gadaker, 1574, 1654, and 3 essays by Johann Lustig, 1624, 1699. The opponents of Jehovah said that the Tetragrammaton should be pronounced as Adonai, and in general do not speculate on what may have been the original pronunciation, although mention is made of the fact that some held that Javi was their pronunciation. Almost 2 centuries after the 17th century works reprinted by Reeland, 19th century Wilhelm Gesenius reported in his thesaurus Philologicus on the main reason of those who argue either for or Yahweh as the original pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton, as opposed to Jehovah. He explicitly cited the 17th century writers mentioned by Reeland as supporters of, as well as implicitly citing Johann David Michaelis, 1717, 1791, and Johann Friedrich von Meyer, 1772, 1849. The latter of whom, Johann Heinrich Kurtz, described as the last of those who have maintained with great pertinacity that was the correct and original point. Edward Robertson's translation of a work by Gesenius gives Gesenius' personal view as my own view, coincide with that of those who regard this name as anciently pronounced Yahweh, like the Samaritans. Now, while we still over here on the Tetragrammaton, when you scroll, they start talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. You see, like I said, the Dead Sea Scroll discovered in the Qumran caves. From the Second Temple period. Just gonna touch on this right quick. In the Dead Sea Scroll and other Hebrew and Aramaic texts, the Tetragrammaton and some other names of God in Judaism, such as El or Elohim, was sometimes written in Paleo Hebrew script. Is the writing system found in Canaanite and Aramaic inscriptions, including pre-biblical and biblical Hebrew, from southern Canaan, also known as the biblical kingdoms of Israel, Samaria, and Judah, showing that they were treated specially. Most of God's names were pronounced until about the 2nd century BCE. Then, as a tradition of non-pronunciation of the names developed, alternatives for the Tetragrammaton appeared, such as Adonai, Curious, and Theos. A Greek fragment of Leviticus 26, chapter, verses 2 through 16, discovered in the Dead Sea Scroll Qumran, has Leo, the Greek form of the Hebrew Trigrammaton, YHW. The historian John the Lydian, 6th century, wrote the Roman Varro, 116 through 27 BCE, defining him, that is the Jewish God, said that he is called Leo in the Chaldean mysteries. Van Kooten mentions that Leo is one of the specifically Jewish designations for God, and the Aramaic papyri from the Jews at Elephantine show that Leo is an original Jewish term. The preserved manuscripts from Qumran show the inconsistent practice of writing the Tetragrammaton, mainly in biblical quotations. Some manuscripts is written in Paleo Hebrew script, square scripts, or replaced with 4 dots or dashes. The members of the Qumran community were aware of the existence of the Tetragrammaton, but this was not tantamount to granting consent for its existing use and speaking. This is evidenced not only by special treatment of the Tetragrammaton in the text, but by the recommendation recorded in the Rules of Association. Who will remember the most glorious name, which is above all? The table below presents all the manuscripts in which the Tetragrammaton is written in Paleo Hebrew script and square scripts, and all the manuscripts in which the copyists have used tetrapuncta. Copies use the tetrapuncta apparently to warn against pronouncing the name of God. In the manuscript, number 4Q248 is in the form of bars. And so they got it, Then you got all this, the Septuagint, Old Testament, are based on the complete or almost complete 4th century manuscripts, Codex Vaticanus. Now, when it comes to the Septuagint, there's some things that I've been just going to touch on this just for a moment. On the 5 of the older manuscripts. And so, like I said, the manuscript of the Septuagint. Then you got manuscript of the Septuagint and later Greek renderings. First century, Common Era, first century, third century. But we still talking about the Tetragrammaton. See, this is the reason why it's important. Now, with the Septuagint, fourth century manuscript, the Codex Vaticanus is a Christian manuscript of a Greek Bible containing the majority of the Greek Old Testament and the majority of the Greek New Testament. It is one of the 4 great uncial codices. And then you got Codex Sinaiticus, which is the Sinai Bible, is a 4th century Christian manuscript of a Greek Bible containing the majority of the Greek Old Testament, including the Deuterocanonical books in the Greek New Testament. Then you got the Codex Alexandrinus, is a manuscript of the Greek Bible written on parchment using the study of comparative writing styles, paleography. It has been dated to the 5th century. Contains the majority of the Greek Old Testament and the Greek New Testament. I ain't gonna send them use it lower, where the Masoretic text has the Tetragrammaton in Hebrew. This corresponds with the Jewish practice of replacing the Tetragrammaton with Adonai when reading the Hebrew word. However, 5 of the oldest manuscripts now extant in fragmentary form render the Tetragrammaton into Greek in a different way. 2 of these are the 1st century BCE. Papyrus found 266 uses now that papyrus there, that's very old. It said they have been assigned paleographically to the 1st century BCE. In the normal Hebrew alphabet, in the midst of this Greek text, use the Greek transcription, the name, 3-letter manuscript, Paleo Hebrew script, the Greek minor prophet scroll, and then, okay. And then other extant ancient fragments of Septuagint or Old Greek manuscripts provide no evidence on the use of the Tetragrammaton. In correspondence with the Hebrew text Tetragrammaton, they include the oldest known example, Papyrus Rylands, and it is a manuscript of the Pentateuch in the Greek Septuagint version of the Hebrew Bible. It is a roll made from papyrus which has survived in a very fragmentary condition. It is designated by the number 967 on the list of Septuagint manuscripts according. And so, like I said, when you talk about that tetragrammaton, as you can see, it's very serious. And things being found in the ground and things, these scrolls and these fragments and things of this nature. They saying that they found, what the Hebrew, what was that, Leo, or no, my pronunciation, excuse me. But there was some that was being by this tetragrammaton. But as you can see, when they come to the tetragrammaton, and then you talk about that Protestant Reformation, you really ain't had no reason running your mouth. See, some of these things had never been discovered. Some things had never been discovered. Then when you talk about this Qumran, that's a Dead Sea Scroll, and that's where the location is, Qumran Cave. They are Protestants running their mouth, and then with stuff about Jehovah, talking about some non-Jews came up with the name Jehovah. But then they started finding these fragments and find these scrolls and things of this nature. Anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, and anti-Hazen also. And versus heresies, translated mean against heresies. Saint Irenaeus, the bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the bishop of Antioch, wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. Also, Saint Athanasius, the bishop of Alexandria, together with, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th festal letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. Saint Athanasius, the bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing, and they destroyed it. As you know, some of that Gnostic theologian writing didn't get destroyed. For example, the Askew Codex, the Berlin Codex and the Bruce Codex, and the Nagamon Library. And all those codexes now being investigated, being researched, being studied all over the colleges and universities around the world. Also, Saint Epiphanes of Salome, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panorama Greek and Panorama Latin, translated mean bread basket. The scholars at the college and universities around the world said that Saint Epiphanes of Salome 3-volume book is also adversary against heresies. And see, that's a very serious thing. Because see, when you talk about this Gnostic nonsense, it ain't no such thing. They made it up. They made up a bunch of lies. And then go around trying to promote anal sex and trying to be violent. Now, Hippolytus of Rome was a bishop of Rome and one of the most important 2nd, 3rd century Christian theologians whose provenance, identity, and corpus remain elusive to scholars and historians. Of suggested communities include Rome, Palestine, Egypt, Anatolia, and other regions of the Middle East. The best historians of literature in the ancient church, including Eusebius of Caesarea and Jerome, openly confess they cannot name where Hippolytus, the biblical commentator and theologian, served in leadership. They had read his works but did not possess evidence of his community. And so Photius I of Constantinople describes him in his Bibliotheca as a disciple of Irenaeus, who was said to be a disciple of Polycarp. And from the context of this passage, it is supposed that he suggested that Hippolytus so styled himself. This assertion is doubtful. One older theory asserts he came into conflict with the popes of his time and seems to have headed a schismatic group as a rival to the Bishop of Rome, thus becoming an antipope. In this view, he opposed the Roman popes, who softened the penitential system to accommodate the large number of new pagan converts. However, he was reconciled to the church before he died as a martyr. It says that starting in the 4th century, various legends arose by him, identifying him as a priest of the Novatianist schism or as a soldier converted by St. Lawrence. He has also been confused with another martyr of the same name. Pope Pius IV identifies him as St. Hippolytus, Bishop of Pontius, who was martyred in the reign of Severus Alexander through his inscription on a statue found at the Church of St. Lawrence in Rome and kept at the Vatican as photographed and published in Bunsen. Now, supposedly, he wrote the refutation of all heresies. The refutation of all heresies is a compendious Christian polemical work of the early 3rd century, whose attribution to Hippolytus of Rome or an unknown pseudo-Hippolytus is disputed. It cataloged both pagan beliefs and 33 Gnostic Christian systems deemed heretical by the authors and or compilers, making it a major source of information on contemporary opponents of Christian Orthodoxy as understood today. The first book, a synopsis of Greek philosophy, circulated separately in several manuscripts and was known as the Philosophomenia, a title which some extend to the whole work. Books 4 through 10 were recovered in 1842 in a manuscript at Mount Athos, while books 2 and 3 remain lost. The work was long attributed to the early Christian theologian Origen. So, like I said, when it comes to this Gnosticism mess, like I say, supposedly Hippolytus of Rome did this work, Refutation of All Heresies. And like I say, they told they got book 1. It's about philosophy and stuff. The first book is synopsis of Greek philosophy, circulated separately in several manuscripts and was known as the Philosophomenia. But, and like they said, books 2 and 3 are lost. Books 2 and 3 are lost. But books 8 through books 4 through 8 are available. Books 4 through 8 are available. I'm looking at it now. Ante-Nicene Christian Library. Because it's on, when you click down at the bottom, this is Wikipedia. And like I said, you click down at the bottom on Refutation of All Heresies on Wikipedia. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see notes, bibliography. You'll see external links. You got an online text. Let me click over. It's English. You got an online text, books 1. Then it tell you that book 2 is missing, book 3 is missing. Then you got book 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that's what it is, Refutation of All Heresies. So let me click back over. Then you can go to the Refutation of All Heresies, English from Archive. And it's there. I'm sitting here looking at it. Refutation of All Heresies, Hippolytus, the Reverend J.H. McMahon, fragments from his commentaries on various books of Scripture. All right. So, like I said, I'm looking at it. It's the Ante-Nicene Christian Library, Volume 6, 1868. Topics: Ante-Nicene Christian Library, Collection, Masonic Library, Additional Collection, Language, English, Item Size. All right. Google Books. All right. And then it was uploaded by Masonic Secrets Revealed on July 22nd, 2017. But like I said, you can sit there and read it. It's right here. There ain't gonna be anything that you can't read on. You can use your mouse, and then just go, and it goes from let me see, page 1 all the way to page 521. And it's there. They upload the whole book. Refutation of all heresy. But like they said, hey, they got book 1, books 2 and 3 are missing. So they got books 4 through 10. Exposing all this Gnostic nonsense. See, that's what I've been telling you about the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church already refuted all this stupid stuff. Exposed both pagan beliefs and 33 Gnostic Christian systems already deemed heretical. The Catholic Church already told they were heretical. Already refuted it. But the reason why I talk about it in the form I do is because they really not sure who Hippolytus is. So to keep from all this controversy now, we can talk about Hippolytus in the way we talking about him. And we can talk about refutation of all heresy, because still we had that, you know, for generation to generation. We had that. But just who actually wrote it, they not sure about who the Hippolytus was, or a pseudo Hippolytus. But irregardless, that Gnostic nonsense, hey, the Catholic Church already refuted that stupid stuff. So you can keep on trying to go around trying to do all this stupid nonsense and lie, because all you doing is lying. You don't do it, but get yourself in trouble. Because all that Gnostic stupid stuff here is self-destructive and destructive. That's all that Gnostic stuff is. It's self-destruction and being destructive. And then, you know, they so stupid. They try to destroy wildlife, nature, and the environment. They do it. They do this stupid stuff. They, you know, the North and South Pole, all this climate stuff, all this stuff about the climate. You got ignorant people in business. They intentionally do stuff. It's just like the animals, just, you know, like, you know, not just wildlife and nature, but just think about domestic cats and dogs. Domestic animals. People try to abuse animals. The Almighty, conservative, Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustle. The Almighty, Black, Prince Stone. The Almighty, Mickey, Cobra Stone, Cracker. The Almighty, Black, Disciple, Papa. The Almighty Bluefin, Black Disciple, the Black Disciple. Lord, Stone, Disciple. Gangster Disciple Killer, GDK. Glazed Donut Killer, GDK. 7-Eleven, G Killer, Goofy. See, this reason why it's so important. Lord Stone Disciple. It's important. See, you had people that was trying to do what was right. So you took the dirty sheets and the willing sheep. We talking about the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. A lot of African Americans, black / African Americans came from humble beginnings. Many black / African Americans, these so-called historical black colleges and universities, you can't see things from today's point of view, like air conditioning and central air and heat. You talking about historically black colleges and universities, already you had all this Jim Crow, all this bigotry, prejudice, and racism. People already living in communities, already being oppressed, bigotry, prejudice, and racism. And then they'll leave their communities to go to school. The Freedmen's Bureau attempted to try to give black / African Americans education after the end of the Civil War, with the proclamation of emancipation and all that. Freed the slaves. And then try to give you education. Now, saying that, you can't look at things from today, but you have to look back after the Civil War. First of all, after the Civil War, a lot of places in the South were practically destroyed because of the Civil War. Many black / African Americans, because of the war, were displaced. Then you trying to tell people after the Civil War to have a life. They didn't have no education. They didn't know where they, first of all, you didn't even know where you was at. Then talking about where you going. It took years for people to have that type of knowledge, have that type of information where you can actually say, I'm from North Carolina, or I'm from Tennessee or Mississippi. A lot of people couldn't even pronounce words. Couldn't even pronounce their name. Just didn't know nothing. All you knew, you was a slave. See, it's important. And when you talk about the dirty sheets and the whale sheep in the early 1900s, many of the dirty sheets and whale sheep, where they came from? They came from all these various communities and joined in together. Then you had people coming to Chicago, the state of Illinois. The Lord Stone disciples. It's important. See, that's reading by that so-called blood gang, Crip gang. See, the dirty sheets and the whaling sheep were doing things in Chicago in the early 1950s. Just like the Soul Stirrer, Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrer on the Gospel Highway. Then they had, something about the chitlin circuit. Just like a lot of blues singers. And comedians also. The chitlin circuit. People are going around, moving, but this like 50s, early 50s. Had this type of thing where you can move around. But see, it's important. See, that so-called blood gang, that Crip gang out there in Los Angeles, California, the people came from down here. They came from the South. Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas. That's where that blood gang, Crip gang, that's where they came from. They came from down south. That's where they came from. There's very few people who can actually say that they actually from California. There's very few. A lot of people came from down south. They moved to California, moved to Los Angeles from down south. You be hearing about a lot of people from the East Coast leaving the East Coast, going out to Los Angeles, time they in the blood gang, the Crip gang. See, like I told you, like I've been telling you. See, you thought you got away. You thought you got away. Now, Jewish principles of faith. Judaism does not centralize authority in any single individual or group. The formulation of principles of faith that are universally recognized by all branches of Judaism remains undefined. There is no central authority in Judaism in existence today, although the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish religious court, would fulfill this role if it were reestablished. Instead, Judaism's principles of faith remain debated by the rabbis based on their understanding of the sacred writings, laws, and traditions, which collectively shape its theological and ethical framework. The most accepted version and extent is the opinion of Maimonides. Judaism affirms the existence and uniqueness of God and stresses performance of deeds or commandments alongside adherence to a strict belief system. In contrast to religions such as Christianity, which demand a more explicit identification of God. Faith in Judaism requires one to honor God through adherence to God's instruction, Torah, and the practice of all of the mitzvah. Orthodox Judaism stresses a number of core principles in its educational programs. Most importantly, it believes that there is one single, omniscient, transcendent, non-compound God who created the universe and continues to be concerned with its governance. Traditional Judaism maintained that God established a covenant with the Jewish people at Mount Sinai and revealed his law and 613 commandments to them in the form of the written and oral Torah. In Rabbinic Judaism, the Torah consists of both the written Torah, Pentateuch, and traditional oral law, much of it later codified in sacred writings. See Mishnah and Talmud. Traditionally, the practice of Judaism has been devoted to the study of Torah and observance of its laws and commandments. In normative Judaism, the Torah and hence Jewish law itself is unchanged, but interpretation of law more open. It is considered a mitzvah, commandment to study and understand the law. The proper counterpart for the general English term faith, as occurring in the expression principles of faith, would be the concept of emunah. In Judaism, the word amen comes from this word and means I trust, believe. While it is generally translated as faith or trust in God, the concept of emunah can more accurately be described as an innate conviction, a perception of truth that transcends reason. Emunah can be enhanced through wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in learning the sacred Jewish writing, but emunah is not simply based on reason, nor can it be understood as the opposite of or stand in contrast to reason. There are a number of basic principles that were formulated by medieval rabbinic authorities. These are put forth as fundamental underpinnings inherent in the acceptance and practice of Judaism. The conception of God. Monotheism. Judaism is based on a strict monotheism and a belief in one single indivisible non-compound God. The Shema Yisrael, one of the most important Jewish prayers, encapsulate the monotheistic nature of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Judaism emphatically rejects any concept of plurality with respect to God, explicitly rejecting polytheism, dualism, and Trinitarianism, which are incompatible with monotheism as Judaism understands it. The unity of God is stated many times in Jewish tradition. It is the second of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. Maimonides wrote that this God is one, not two or more than two, but one, whose unity is different from all other units that there are. He is not one as a genus, which contains many species, is one, nor is he one as a body containing parts and dimensions, is one. But his is a unit in which there is no other anywhere. Yes, Sado, HaTorah, oneself. In Jewish tradition, dualistic and Trinitarian conceptions of God are generally referred to as shituf, partnership, meaning an incorrect but not an idolatrous view. God is the creator of the universe. Most Jews believe that God is creator of the universe. Different sets of Jews view this in different ways. For example, some ultra-Orthodox groups reject the concept of evolution and believe the earth to be only a few thousand years old. Other groups of Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews do not believe in a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation narrative. And according to their view, Judaism not in contradiction to the scientific model that states that the age of the universe is around 13.77 billion years old. Norbert M. Samuelson writes, the question of dating the universe has never been a problem of Jewish philosophy, ultimately because that philosophy has never taken the literal meaning of the Bible to be its revealed true meaning. While the general Jewish attitude has been that God created the world ex nihilo, Rabbi Mark D. Engel writes that historically there has been a general reluctance in Jewish tradition to speculate on the metaphysical aspects of creation. All right. Nature of God. The Jewish view that God is eternal with neither beginning nor end. A principle stated in a number of biblical passages. The rabbis taught a quite literal, down-to-earth view of the eternalness of God, that God is eternal, but it is not given to man to explore the full meaning of this idea. And so one cannot therefore expect to find in the rabbinic literature anything like a detailed examination of what is meant by divine eternity. A famous Mishnah statement on attempt to pierce the veil is this: whoever reflects on four things, it were better for him that he had not come into the world. What is above, what is beneath, what is before, and what is after. The traditional Jewish view is that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Various various Jewish thinkers, however, have proposed a finite God, sometimes in response to the problem of evil and ideas about free will. Louis Jacobs writes that modern Jewish thinkers such as Levi Olin, echoing some classical Jewish writers such as the 14th century Talmudists, Gershonidi, have thought of God as limited by his own nature, so that while he is infinite in some respects, he is finite in others, referencing the idea present in classical source that there is a primal formless material coexisting with God from all eternity, upon which God has to work, and that God only knows the future in a general sense, but not how individual men will exercise their choice. On the topic of omniscience and free will, Jacob was right there in the medieval period. Three views were put forth. Maimonides, who wrote that God had foreknowledge and man is free. Gershonidi, who wrote that man is free and consequently God does not have complete knowledge. And Hesiod Crescus, who wrote in Or Adone that God has complete foreknowledge and consequently man is not really free. Alright, let me scroll down. Alright, soul devotion to the Creator. Within Judaism, the essence of worship is deeply rooted in the belief of monotheism, emphasizing the exclusive devotion to the Creator. This principle dictates that worship and reverence should be directed solely towards God. As articulated by Maimonides' fifth principle of faith, according to this belief, no entity aside from the Creator is deemed worthy of worship. Revelation. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, is the Jewish scriptural canon and central source of Jewish law. The word is an acronym formed from the initial Hebrew letters of the three traditional subdivisions of the Tanakh: the Torah, teaching, also known as the 5 books of Moses or Pentateuch, the Nevi'im, prophets, and the Ketuvim, writings. The Tanakh contains 24 books in all. Its authoritative version is the Masoretic text. Traditionally, the text of the Tanakh was said to have been finalized at the Council of Jamnia in 70 CE. Although this is uncertain, in Judaism, the term Torah refers not only to the 5 books of Moses, but also to all of the Jewish scriptures, the whole of Tanakh, and the ethical and moral instructions of the rabbis. In addition to the Tanakh, there are 2 further textual traditions in Judaism: Mishnah, tractates expounding on Jewish law, and the Talmud, commentary of Mishnah and Torah. These are both codifications and redactions of the Jewish oral tradition and major works in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud consists of the Babylonian Talmud, produced in Babylon around 600 CE, and the Jerusalem Talmud, produced in the land of Israel circa 400 CE. The Babylonian Talmud is the more extensive of the two and is considered the more important. The Talmud is a representation of the Torah through sustained analysis and argument, with unfolding dialogue and contention between rabbinic sages. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, a legal code, and the Gemara, Aramaic for learning, an analysis and commentary to that code. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz writes that if the Bible is the cornerstone of Judaism, then the Talmud is the central pillar. No other work has had a comparable influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, shaping influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life in states. The Talmud is a repository of thousands of years of Jewish wisdom and the oral law, which is as ancient and significant as the written law. The Torah finds expression therein. It is a conglomerate of law, legend, philosophy, a blend of unique logic and shrewd pragmatism of history and science, anecdotes and humor. Although its main objective is to interpret and comment on a book of law, it is simultaneously a work of art that goes beyond legislation and its practical application. And although the Talmud is, to this day, the primary source of Jewish law, it cannot be cited as an authority for purposes of ruling. Moses and the Torah. Orthodox and conservative Jews hold that the prophecy of Moses is held to be true. He is held to be the chief of all prophets, even of those who came before and after him. This belief was expressed by Maimonides, who wrote that Moses was superior to all prophets, whether they preceded him or rose afterwards. Moses attained the highest possible human level. He perceived God to a degree surpassing every human that ever existed. God spoke to all other prophets through an intermediary. Moses alone did not need this. This is what the Torah means when God says, mouth to mouth, I will speak to him. The great Jewish philosopher Philo understands this type of prophet to be an extraordinarily high level of philosophical understanding which had been reached by Moses and which enabled him to write the Torah through his own rational deduction of natural law. Maimonides describes a similar concept of prophecy. Since a voice that did not originate from a body cannot exist, the understanding of Moses was based on his lofty philosophical understanding. However, this does not imply that the text of the Torah should be understood literally, as according to Karaism. Rabbinic tradition maintained that God conveyed not only the words of the Torah, but the meaning of the Torah. God gave rules as to how the law were to be understood and implemented, and these were passed down as an oral tradition. This oral law was passed down from generation to generation and ultimately written down almost 2,000 years later in the Mishnah and the two Talmuds. For Reformed Jews, the prophecy of Moses was not the highest degree of prophecy, rather it was the first in a long chain of progressive revelation in which mankind gradually began to understand the will of God better and better. As such, they maintained that the laws of Moses are no longer binding, and it is today's generation that must assess what God wants of them. This principle is also rejected by most Reconstructionist Jews, but for a different reason. Most posit that God is not a being with a will. Thus, they maintain that no will can be revealed. The origin of the Torah. The Torah is composed of 5 books called in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They chronicle the history of the Hebrews and also contain the commandments that Jews are to follow. Rabbinic Judaism holds that the Torah extant today is the same one that was given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. Maimonides explained, we do not know exactly how the Torah was transmitted to Moses, but when it was transmitted, Moses merely wrote it down like a secretary taking dictation. Thus, every verse in the Torah is equally holy, as they all originate from God and are all part of God's Torah, which is perfect, holy, and true. Haredi Jews generally believe that the Torah today is no different from what was received from God to Moses, with only the most minor scribal error. Many other Orthodox Jews suggest that over the millennia, some scribal errors have crept into the Torah's text. They note that the Masoretes, 7th to 10th century, compared all known Torah variations in order to create a definitive text. However, even according to this position, that the scrolls that Jews possess today are not letter perfect. The Torah scrolls are certain the word perfect texts, receptors, that was divinely revealed to Moses. Indeed, the general consensus of Orthodox rabbinic authority posits that this belief in the word perfect nature of the Torah scroll is a defining feature of Orthodox Judaism. Prophecy. Jews believe that the Almighty created time chooses to prophesy. Many of some such occurrences are described in the Nevi'im, the books of the prophet. However, since the destruction of the first temple, prophecy has ceased. The oral Torah. Orthodox Jews view the written and oral Torah as the same as Moses taught for all practical purposes. Conservative Jews tend to believe that much of the oral law is divine inspired, while Reform and Reconstructed Jews tend to view all of the oral law as an entirely human creation. Traditionally, the Reform movement held that Jews were obliged to obey the ethical but not the ritual commandments of Scripture. Although today many Reformed Jews have adopted many traditional ritual practices, Karaite Jews traditionally consider the written Torah to be authoritative, viewing the oral law as only one possible interpretation of the written Torah. Most modern Orthodox Jews will agree that while certain laws within the oral law were given to most of the Talmudic law were derived organically by the rabbis of the Mishnah and Talmudic era. God relationship with men. Judaism focuses more on how God defines men than one trying to define God. There is therefore a focus on what people are expected to be or do far more than on spelling out theological beliefs. People are born with both a tendency to do good and do evil. Jewish tradition mostly emphasizes free will, and most Jewish thinkers reject determinism on the basis that free will and the exercise of free choice have been considered a precondition of moral law or moral life. Moral indeterminacy seems to be assumed both by the Bible, which bids man to choose between good and evil, and by the rabbis who hold the decision for following the good inclination rather than the evil rests with every individual. Maimonides asserted the compatibility of free will with foreknowledge of God. Only a handful of Jewish thinkers have expressed deterministic views. This group includes the medieval Jewish philosopher Haystack Crackers and the 19th century Hasidic rabbi Mordecai Joseph Liner of Izbika. All is necessary for God because he is perfect, but for mankind all is possible by virtue of choice. The two types of view are true with knowing about the prophet who is in difficult with God to be wise and to perform miracles for him. Judaism affirms that people are born with both a Yisur Hatov, an inclination or impulse to do good, and with a Yisur Hara, an inclination or impulse to do evil. These phrases reflect the concept that within each person there are opposing natures continuing conflict and are referenced many times in the rabbinic tradition. The rabbis even recognize the positive value to the Yisur Hara. Without the Yisur Hara, there would be no civilization or other fruits of human labor. Midrash states, without the evil inclination, no one would father a child, build a house, or make a career. The implication is that Yisur Hatov and Yisur Hara are best understood not only as moral categories of good and evil, but as an inherent conflict within man between selfless and selfish orientation. Judaism recognized two classes of sin: offense against other people and offense against God. Offense against God may be understood as violation of a contract, the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Once a person has sinned, there are various means by which they may obtain atonement. See atonement in Judaism. Judaism rejects the belief in original sin. Both ancient and modern Judaism teaches that every person is responsible for his own action. The existence of some innate sinfulness on each human being was discussed in both biblical Genesis 8:21, Psalm 51:5, and post-biblical sources. However, in the biblical verse, this is brought as an argument for divine mercy, as humans cannot be blamed for the nature they were created with. Some apocryphal and pseudepigraphic sources express pessimism about human nature. A grain of evil seed was sown in Adam's heart from the beginning. In the Talmud, Avodah Zarah has an unusual passage which Elva Kiesler described as the serpent seduced Eve in paradise, impregnated her with spiritual physical dirt, which was inherited through the generation. But the revelation at Sinai and the reception of the Torah cleansed Israel. Kiesler states that although it is clear their belief in some form of original sin did exist in Judaism, it did not become mainstream teaching nor dogmatically fixed, but remained at the margins of Judaism. Reward and punishment. The mainstream Jewish view that God will reward those who observe his commandments and punish those who intentionally transgress them. Examples of rewards and punishment are described throughout the Bible and throughout classical rabbinic literature. The common understanding of this principle is accepted by most Orthodox, conservative, and many Reformed Jews. It is generally rejected by the Reconstruction. See also free will and theology. The Bible contains reference to Sheol, literally gloom, as the common destination of the dead, which may be compared with the Hades or underworld of ancient religion. In later tradition, this is interpreted either as hell or as a literary expression for death or the grave in general. Israel was chosen for a purpose. God chose the Jewish people to be in a unique covenant with God. The description of this covenant is the Torah itself. God further declared in the Torah through prophecies to Moses that his firstborn is the Israelites. However, closeness and being chosen does not imply exclusivity, as anyone can join and convert. Included in the idea of being chosen is that Jews were chosen for a specific mission, a duty to be a light unto the nation, and to have a covenant with God as described in the Torah. The Messiah. Judaism acknowledges an afterlife, but does not have a single or systemic way of thinking about the afterlife. Judaism places its overwhelming stress on Olam Hazi, this world, rather than Olam Haba, the world to come. The speculations about the world to come are peripheral to mainstream Judaism. In Perky Ava, Ethics of the Father, it is said that 1 hour of penitence and good deeds in this world is better than all the life of the world to come. But 1 hour of spiritual repose in the world to come is better than all the life of this world. Reflecting both a view of the significance of life on earth and the spiritual repose granted to the righteous in the next world. Jews reject the idea that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah and agree that the Messiah has not yet come. Throughout Jewish history, there have been a number of Jewish Messiah claimants considered false by Jews, including most notably Simon Bar Kokhba and Sabbatai Ziegler, whose followers were known as Sabbateans. Liberal or Reformed Judaism does not believe in the arrival of a personal Messiah who will gather the exiles in the land of Israel and cause the physical resurrection of the dead. Rather, Reformed Jews focus on a future age in which there is a perfected world of justice and mercy. Now I'm gonna click over here. We're on Britannica because it's a little bit longer. Really summarize it. But we on Britannica. Dualism in cosmology. Dualism in religion. The doctrine that the world or reality consists of two basic opposed and irreducible principles that account for all that exists. It has played an important role in the history of thought and of religion. The nature and significance in religion. Dualism means the belief in two supreme opposed powers or gods or sets of divine or demonic beings that cause the world to exist. It may conveniently be contrasted with monism, which sees the world as consisting of one principle, such as mind, spirit, or matter, with monotheism, or with various pluralisms and polytheism. We see a multiplicity of principles or powers at work, as is indicated below. However, the situation is not always clear and simple. A matter of one or two or many, for there are monotheistic, monistic, and polytheistic religions with dualistic aspects. Various distinctions may be discerned in the type of dualism in general. In the first place, dualism may be either absolute or relative. In a radical or absolute dualism, the two principles are held to exist from eternity. For example, in the Iranian dualism, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, both the bright and beneficent and the sinister and destructive principles are from eternity. In a mitigated or relative dualism, one of the two principles may be derived from or presuppose the other as a basic. For example, the Bogomils, a medieval heretical Christian group, held that the devil is a fallen angel who came from God and was the creator of the human body, into which he managed by trickery to have God infuse a soul. Here the devil is a subordinate being and not co-eternal with God, the absolute eternal being. This then is clearly a qualified, not a radical dualism. Both radical and mitigated types of dualism are found among different groups of the late medieval Cathari, a Christian heretical movement closely related to the Bogomils. Another and perhaps more important distinction is that between dialectical and eschatological dualism. Dialectical dualism involves an eternal dialectic or tension of two opposed principles, such as in Western culture, the one and the many, or idea and matter, or space called by Plato the perception, and in Indian culture, Maya, the illusory world of sense experience and multiplicity, and Atman Brahman, the essential identity of self and ultimate reality. Dialectical dualism ordinarily implies a cyclical or eternally repetitive view of history. Eschatological dualism, a dualism concerned with the ultimate destiny of humanity and the world, how things will be in the last time. On the other hand, conceives of a final resolution of the present dualistic state of things, in which evil will be eliminated at the end of a linear history constituted of a series of unrepeatable events instead of a cyclical, repetitive one. The ancient Iranian religions, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism and Gnosticism, a religio-philosophical movement influential in the Hellenistic world, provide examples of eschatological dualism, a type of thought, such as Platonism, that insists on a profound harmony in the cosmos. It thus more radically dualistic because of its irreducibly dialectical character than Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, with their emphasis on the cosmic struggle between two antithetical principles, good and evil. Midway between these extremes is Gnostic dualism, which has an ontology or theory of being of an Orphic Platonic type, see below, among ancient civilizations and people, but which also affirmed the final disappearance and annihilation of evil with the eventual destruction of the material world, thus comprised of both dialectical and eschatological dualism. In philosophy, dualism is often identified with the doctrine of transcendence, that there is a separate realm or being above and beyond the world, as opposed to monism, which holds that the ultimate principle is inside the world, immanent. In the disciplines concerned with the study of religion, however, religious dualism refers not to the distinction or separation of God in the world, but to the doctrine of two basic principle, a doctrine that moreover may easily be compatible with a form of monism, Orphism, or the Advaita school of Vedanta that makes the opposition between the one and the many absolute and sees in multiplicity merely a fragmentation or illusory obliteration of the one. Historical varieties of religious dualism. Among ancient civilizations and people, dualism is a phenomenon of major importance in the religions of the ancient world. Those of the Middle East would be considered here. Now we got Egypt and Mesopotamia. While there was generally no explicit dualism in ancient Egyptian religion, there was an implicit dualism in the contrast between the god Seth and the god Osiris. Seth, a violent, aggressive, foreign, sterile god connected with disorder, the desert, and loneliness, was opposed to Osiris, the god of fertility and life. Active in the waters of the Nile, Seth also possessed some typically dualistic marks of a mythological character. His action as well as his personality itself was ambivalent, and as a typical trickster, he was also capable at times of constructive action in the cosmos. The myths of Osiris and Seth may be compared in various ways with those recently discovered among the Dogon people of the Western Sudan, which contrast Nomo, a fertile and happily mated primordial being pictured in fish form, with Urugu, pale fox, an unhappy, sterile character who lives in the wilderness without a mate. Urugu is considered to be the element that makes the universe complete, the same role assigned to Seth in the Egyptian myth. Dualism, broadly speaking, was also present in ancient Mesopotamian religion, in myths pertaining to the origin of the gods and of the cosmos. The opposition between the primordial deities, Apsu, the abyss, and Tamat, the sea, and the new ones, particularly Marduk, the demiurge or creator, displayed some dualistic aspects. Though the earlier deities had established the basic reality of the universe, its ontological core, because of their chaotic and selfish nature, they resisted their own offspring who were later to create the now existing definite order of the cosmos, a dualism of the ontological basic reality of being versus the cosmological, the form or order of the material universe, thus implicitly affirmed. Then you talk about Greece and the Hellenistic world. And the logos, dualistic concept, may be found in the early Greek theogony of Hesiod and his myths of the gods, Uranus, Cronus, and Zeus, and the conflict between primordial and later gods. It was in the latter classical Greek world, however, that dualism was most evident. Many of the pre-Socratic philosophers, 6th and 5th century BCE, were dualistic in various ways. In the teachings of Parmenides, for example, noted for reducing the world to a static one, a classical instance of monism. There is still a radical opposition between the realms of being and opinion, between ultimate reality and the world of human sense experience. On the other hand, in the doctrines of Heraclides, noted for reducing the world to fiery change, the conflict of opposites, hot, cold, day, night, beginning, end, the way up, the way down, called by Heraclides Polemus war, was exalted to become a metaphysical principle. Though these opposites are piecemeal dyads, their effect taken together is as a whole dualistic. The dualism of Empedocles, simultaneously a religious teacher and a natural philosopher, is especially striking, for he viewed the primordial spirit of the universe as undergoing cycles alternately under the dominance of the antithetical principle of love and discord, which periodically break and then reconstruct it. In this context, there exist daemons, souls, divine beings that have fallen from a superior world into this world and exist clothed in the foreign robe of the flesh. These souls are therefore subject to transmigration through a series of vegetable, animal, and human bodies, owing to a primitive accident for which credit was given to the furious discord. Now, it's a lot of information to read, so what I'm going to do, all right, that's the Greek world, Greece and the Hellenistic world. I'm gonna touch on this. Then you got Iran. In the Indo-Iranian period, second millennium BC, there were already a tendency toward dualistic thought, especially in myths relating to monstrous and demonic beings who steal the movement of the waters and thus make cosmic life impossible. In later archaic Indian speculating, there were also a tendency to oppose devas, gods, to asuras, demons. Iranian dualism, however, expressed itself most characteristically in Zoroastrianism. In the Zoroastrian religion's text, the Gathas, there is an opposition between two spirits, the beneficent spirit, Spente, Mayu, and the destructive spirit, Angramanya, or Ahriman. These two spirits are different, irreducible principles. At the beginning, they have chosen life and non-life respectively. Though the beneficent spirit is almost a hypostasis, the substance of the divinity, or Huwa Mazda, or Mazda. Nothing is said in the Gathas among the origin of the destructive spirit. In any case, the very fact that the destructive spirit is said to be the twin brother of the beneficent one does not imply that he is a son of a Huwa Mazda, but implies only that the two spirits are symmetrically equal and contrary as to their respective efficacy and orientation. Then you got Zoroastrianism, a Zoroastrian heretical movement. Then among South and East Asian religions, like dualism, have also appeared in various forms in the religions of India and China. Indian dualism has involved the opposition of the one and the many, of reality and appearance, and in ancient Hindu hymn, Rigveda, Purusha, the ancient primordial man and the immortal that is in heaven, is opposed to this world. The three quarters of Purusha that comprise the transcendent world are opposed to the other quarter of him, his limbs, that is this world. The divine foundation, the divine substance of this world made out of his limb. Early speculation on the identity of the Atman self and the Brahman, the very core of reality, as opposed to the material visible world that is subject to Maya. Mundane illusion has been mentioned above. So that's in India. Then you got China. Classical Chinese thought, which began with the teachings of the philosopher Confucius, first early 5th century BCE, and ended with the close of the Warring States period in 221 BCE, upheld the notion of a dynamic universe and thus generally eschewed the radical dualism that emerged in India, Iran, and Europe. The notion of yin-yang, the opposed polarities of cosmic flux, may at first seem dualistic. Yin is associated with passivity and femininity, yang with activity and masculinity. Yet yin and yang are not radically separate. They complement and permeate each other, emerging as two extreme aspects of the constant transformation of the Tao, the way of the universe. Likewise, all of the 10,000 things, a Chinese metaphor for the world, are seen as the cumulative product of the generative forces of heaven and earth. Like yin and yang, however, heaven and earth are complementary aspects of a continuous process of creation and not radically separate entities. Then a more extreme dualism appeared as Chinese thinkers encountered intellectual systems, most notably Buddhism, that originated outside China. Even so, the emphasis in Chinese thought remained primarily on harmony rather than tension between opposites. Wang Bai, 226-249, who developed much of the terminology and many of the concepts of Chinese ontology, distinguished between you from non-being, Wu, the latter which he equated with the Tao, rather than nothingness. However, non-being is pure being. Wang referred to Wu as the great note that harmonizes the other notes, being that constitute the symphony of the universe. And so, and then among religions of the West, dualism have appeared in Western religions chiefly under the impact of Gnostic influence. Judaism. No real dualism is found in Judaism. except in the Gnostic and theosophic forms of Jewish mysticism known as Kabbalah. The presence of a vigorous and universal monotheism implied not only faith in a single creative God, but also faith in a God who is the uncontested master of history. And neither Satan nor Belial detracts from this absolute monotheism. Within these limitations, however, a tendency toward dualistic thought can be seen in such late non-canonical texts as the first book of Enoch, 1st century BCE, in which certain angels are said to have fallen as a consequence of their wedding with the daughters of human beings. These angels, it is held, taught humans the malevolent arts of magic, seduction, and violence, together with such elements of culture as writing and the use of metals. Though there is no dualism in the proper sense in the manual discipline, one of the Qumran texts of the Dead Sea Scroll, a certain polarity is nonetheless displayed in a passage that asserts of God that He created man to have dominion over the world and made for him two spirits, so that he may walk by them until the time of his visitation. They are the spirits of truth and error, in the dwelling of light and the origins of the truth, and from a spring of darkness are the origins of error. In the hand of the Prince of Light is dominion over all the children of righteousness. In the ways of light they walk, and in the hand of the angel of darkness all dominion over the children of error, and in the ways of darkness they walk. The context of this passage, however, is completely monotheistic. It expresses a doctrine also found in the Didache, a Jewish Christian work of the early 2nd century, commonly better known as the teaching of the 12 apostles, that are the two roads on which an individual may walk, the good road and the bad, the road of life and that of the death, with God leaving the choice of the road to one's free will. It also expresses the latter rabbinic doctrine of the struggle between the good and evil inclinations, yes sir, within each human. There is also no hint of dualism in the two sources mentioned in the Qumran text, the bright source and the dark. These are hardly dualistic principles in the ontological sense of the term, but are simply radical polarities in spiritual orientation. Not even the angel of darkness mentioned in the same context as a principle, though he is the person and a power. Alright, then you have Christianity. In Christianity, dualistic concepts appear principally in its Gnostic development, but even in the 2nd century Judaizing sect of the Encratites, which was not really Gnostic, there were dualistic aspects that had modified some tendencies of later Judaism. These teachings were also particularly prominent in the writings of the supporters of Docetism, the doctrine that Christ, being divine, did not suffer and die. 2nd century, who held that matter is essential evil and that the soul is a pre-existing substance. According to the Encratites, the pre-existing soul, once it gets informated by concupiscence, drops into the carnal world. Since generation perpetuates the soul's state of decay in this bodily world, the Encratites condemned all sexual relations. All right, let me see here. Then he goes on to talk about the dualism of Martian and 2nd century semi-Gnostic Christian heritage was really a ditheism, a system positing two gods, though common Gnostic presuppositions such as anti-Semitism and anti-cosmism, the condemnation of the body and the material universe, were also present in his thought. For Martian, the God of the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, is an inferior and harsh creator demiurge, author of the world and of humankind, who is nonetheless completely distinct from the supreme divinity who manifests himself in Jesus and is a stranger to this world. Then you got for Saturninus, or Saturnine of Antioch, the founder of a 2nd century Syrian Gnostic group that was commonly connected with the tradition of Simon Magus, reputed leader of an earlier Gnostic sect. The God of the Hebrew Bible is only one of the angels, the martial angel of the Judaic nation. Although, as with Martial, he is distinct from the devil, who is in fact his opponent. According to Saturninus, a primordial accident caused a wave of pneuma, spirit, to land in the inferior darkness, where it is said to have remained prisoner and now continues its existence in those who, characterized by the presence in them of this superior element, will later be conducted back to their heavenly origin by Jesus, a messenger coming from above. And then conceptions of a similar type are also found in the song or hymn of the Nassim. Nassim is the Hebrew term for Ophite, mentioned above, and in the Song of the Pearl in the Gnostic Act of Thomas. Here also occurs the concept of a Savior to be saved, who has been sent from above and was made a prisoner by darkness. This basic concept was developed fully only in Manichaeism. The Gnostic dualist view survived in late antiquity and into Middle Ages, both in the East among the Mandaeans and Yazidi, and some extreme sects within the Shiite branch of Islam, and in the West among the Bogomils and Cathari. It is still present today in modern theosophy. Then you got among religions of modern indigenous people. And then religious dualism also manifests itself among non-literate people, especially in the concept of a second figure, an ambivalent demiurge trickster who can be both a collaborator and a rival of the supreme being and independent of the latter in origin. Such tricksters include the coyote in North American Indian mythology, the raven among Paleo-Siberians, and the crow among the Southeast Australian tribes. To these animal figures are attributed the origin of such negative aspects of life as death and illness, but they are also credited as benefactors in creating utilities in the cosmos and in the invention of fire. The demiurge trickster is typically ambivalent, tremendously frightful and efficacious, but also frequently limited in power. For example, such tricksters are often incapable of animating the being that they have molded and must therefore request the help of the supreme being in bringing them to life. They are said to be selfish, lonely, and unhappy, and because of these qualities, they are moved, despite their arrogance, to attempt to relate themselves to or unite with the supreme being. A typical dual composition involving the coexistence and cooperation of two elements, or even a dualistic opposition as two opposed elements that function as principle in respect to the attribute they found in the Dogon Western Sudanese notion about Nomo and Urugu, already mentioned. And then you have other dualistic concepts among indigenous peoples, positive opposite to the supreme being, a violent and death-bearing second figure, or a demiurgical type. The character of Erlik in the mythology of the Central Asiatic Turks among the Altaics is typical. Erlik is a king of the dead and master of death who assumed the role of a fraudulent and unfortunate collaborator with the supreme being. Alright, then. So like I said, we over here on Britannica. Let me step over here on the Now it talks about, now we over here on Wikipedia, still on dualism and cosmology. Well, we was on Encyclopedia Britannica. Just want to touch on a few things. Summarize. Dualism or dualistic cosmology is the moral or belief that two fundamental concepts exist, which often oppose each other. It is an umbrella term that covers a diversity of views from various religions, including both traditional religions and scriptural religions. Now, moral dualism is the belief of the great complement of or conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent. It simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral and independent of how these may be represented. Moral opposites might, for example, exist in a worldview that has one God, more than one God, or none. By contrast, duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism implies at least two gods, while bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, or light and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system could be one in which one God is a creator and the other a destroyer. In theology, dualism can also refer to the relationship between the deity and creation, or the deity and the universe. See, theistic dualism. That form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Alternatively, in ontological dualism, the world is divided into two overarching categories within Chinese culture and philosophy. The opposition and combination of the universe's two basic principles are expressed as yin and yang, and are traditionally foundational doctrine of Taoism, Confucianism, and some Chinese Buddhist schools. All right, let me scroll here. All right, you're talking about moral dualism. Then you got duotheism, bitheism, and ditheism. Radical and mitigated. Radical dualism or absolute dualism, which posits two co-equal divine forces. Manichaeism conceives of two previously coexisting realms of light and darkness, which became embroiled in conflict owing to the chaotic actions of the latter. Subsequently, certain elements of the light became entrapped within darkness. The purpose of material creation is to enact the slow process of extraction of these individual elements, at the end of which the kingdom of light will prevail over darkness. And then the mitigated dualism, where one or two principles is in some way inferior to the other. Such classical Gnostic movement as the Sethians conceived of the material world as being created by a lesser divinity than the true God that was the object of their devotion. Now you have theistic dualism. In theology, dualism can refer to the relationship between God and creation, or God in the universe. This form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Okay, you got Zoroastrianism, then you got Manichaeism, and then you got Christianity. The dualism between God and creation has existed as a central belief in multiple historical sets and traditions of Christianity, including Marcionism, and Catharism, and Paulicianism, and other forms of Gnostic Christianity. Christian dualism refers to the belief that God and creation are distinct, but interrelated through an indivisible bond. However, Gnosticism is a diverse, syncretistic religious movement consisting of various belief systems generally united in the belief in a distinction between a supreme transcendent God and a blind evil demiurge responsible for creating the material universe, thereby trapping the divine spark within matter. Gnosticism is not limited to Christianity and also incorporates beliefs from other Abrahamic traditions such as early Jewish sects. Then you got ontological dualism. Alternatively, dualism can mean the tendency of humans to perceive and understand the world as being divided into two overarching categories. In this sense, it is dualistic when one perceives a tree as a thing separate from everything surrounding it. This form of ontological dualism exists in Taoism and Confucianism, and a foundational theory within traditional Chinese medicine. Beliefs that divide the universe into the complementary oppositions of yin and yang. And then you got in traditions such as classical Hinduism, Samkhya, Yoga, Vaishnavism, Vaishishka, and the latter Vedanta schools, which accepted the theory of gunas. Chinese Pure Land and Zen. Buddhism or Islamic Sufism. A key to enlightenment is transcending this sort of dualistic thinking without merely substituting dualism with monism or pluralism. Now, in other religions, Samoyed peoples, then other people around the world, Now, we'll touch on this mind-body dualism before I end today's video. Mind-body dualism. In the philosophy of mind-body dualism denotes either the view that mental phenomena are non-physical, or that the mind and body are distinct and separable. Thus, it encompasses a set of views about the relationship between mind and matter, as well as between subject and object, and is contrasted with other positions such as physicalism and inactivism in the mind-body problem. All right. Now, dualism is closely associated with the thought of Rene Descartes, 1641, who holds that the mind is a non-physical and therefore non-spatial substance. Descartes clearly identified the mind with consciousness and self-awareness and distinguished this from the physical brain as the seat of intelligence. Hence, he was the first documented Western philosopher to formulate the mind-body problem in the form in which it exists today. However, the theory of substance dualism has many advocates in contemporary philosophy such as Richard Swinburne and so on and so forth. All right. Dualism is contrasted with various kinds of monism. Substance dualism is contrasted with all forms of materialism, but property dualism may be considered a form of non-reductive physicalism. Then, you got types. Ontological dualism makes dual commitments about the nature of existence as it relates to mind and matter, and can be divided into three different types. Substance dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundations. Number two, property dualism suggests that the ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, as in emergentism. And predicate dualism claims the irreducibility of mental predicates to physical predicates. All right. Now I'm going to click back over here to syncretism, which is important. Syncretism is the practice of combining different beliefs in various schools of thought. Syncretism involves the merging or assimilation of several originally discrete traditions, especially in the theology and mythology of religion, thus asserting an underlying unity and allowing for an inclusive approach to other faiths. While syncretism in art and culture is sometimes likened to eclecticism in the realm of religion, it specifically denotes a more integrated merging of beliefs into a unified system distinct from eclecticism, which implies a selective adoption of elements from different traditions without necessarily blending them into a new cohesive belief system. Syncretism also manifests in politics, known as syncretic politics. Now, religious syncretism is the blending of two or more religious belief systems into a new system, or the incorporation into a religious tradition of beliefs from unrelated traditions. This can occur for many reasons, and the latter scenario happens quite commonly in areas where multiple religious traditions exist in proximity and function actively in a culture, or when a culture is conquered and the conquerors bring their religious beliefs with them, but do not succeed in entirely eradicating the old beliefs or especially practices. Now, religions may have syncretic elements to their beliefs, or here's a but: adherents of so labeled systems often frown on applying the label, especially adherents who belong to revealed religious systems such as the Abrahamic religions or any system that exhibits an exclusivist approach. Such adherents sometimes see syncretism as a betrayal of their pure truth. By this reasoning, adding an incompatible belief corrupts the original religion, rendering it no longer true. Indeed, critics of a syncretistic trend may use the word or its variants as a disparaging epithet, as a charge implying that those who seek to incorporate a new view, belief, or practice into a religious system pervert the original faith. Non-exclusivist systems of belief, on the other hand, may feel quite free to incorporate other traditions into their own. All right, all right. So that's syncretism, which is important to be aware of syncretism, because they try to make up some kind of religion called New Age and all this other nonsense. They made it up. They made it up. They tell you if you look up new, for example, then you look up all these other nonsense, just like they were talking about in syncretism, talking about the revealed books, Judaism, the Catholic Church / Protestant, and then you got Islam. Now, if you telling people talking about some kind of syncretist stuff in these revealed books. Now, there's not the only revealed books. You got Sikhs that some kind of book they'll reveal and things like that. I'm trying to remember when it's talking about revealed books and stuff like this. But man, Judaism, the Catholic Church, and Christianity, and Islam. You're talking about some syncretism. That's serious. If you thought it wasn't serious, you see all these religious wars that have been fought and being fought. It's a serious thing. It's serious. And then you talking about dualism. You trying to take some Zoroastrianism or some Observanism and mix it in with Buddhism. They're not going. It's going to be some kind of all kind of confusion. It's going to be war. It's going to be war. That's what it means. And then you got all think about they talking about dualism with indigenous people. Now they're not necessarily a reveal, but people who pass their culture and custom from one generation to the next generation, usually orally, and then there's oral traditions that get passed, and then you got the non-oral traditions, like the practices, the rituals, the way of life. All that is the culture and the custom of indigenous people. And then you trying to mix in with the polytheists or whatever, because they conquered, through war. Or vice versa. The so-called polytheists syncretized and took information from the people they conquered and included it in their, it's just like they were talking about the Greeks and the Romans and all that. They incorporated each other's, merged all the Egyptians. They took, people who had been conquered and merged it together. But like it was important when we were talking about Judaism, and we were talking about how the Dead Sea Scroll had been discovered, and see how important it was when we were talking about the Tetragrammaton, and how important that is. I mean, that's one of the main subjects is the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh. When that Dead Sea Scroll was discovered, observant Jews, they, from right to left, the Tetragrammaton, the whole culture and custom of Judaism, the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh. And then you start talking about this Jehovah. In one part that we read on Wikipedia, how Jehovah, the whole concept of Jehovah, some non-Jews And then when they found them Dead Sea Scrolls, see, these things are important. Not just to the Jews. Then the Catholic Church, these books from the Qumran caves. And then they did radiocarbon dating. These books, all this information was done back in BCE. The Second Temple. This BCE. And then again, when you say BCE, you claim that, you saying that at this time, this when these documents were supposedly prepared in BCE, Second Temple time. But the information itself had already been passed down one generation to the next generation. It's very old. That's how old that information is. And to be talking about the Tetragrammaton, that's some serious. That's the reason why that syncretism. That's the reason why that syncretism. You talking about these revealed books? They gave an example of how people these revealed books, and then you talking about the Catholic Church. It means just and then Islam. When they found the Dead Sea Scroll, it really didn't say that Judaism was false. It really said that Judaism was true. It's just at the when you talk about the time period, it may be a couple like what they say Lao, it may have been said, because in the writings that was something that was in those Dead Sea Scrolls. But it didn't say nothing about saying we being wrong. And then it didn't say anything else about, the Dead Sea Scrolls. And including the Septuagint, there's been some fragments found. It didn't necessarily, like Judaism was a lie. No, it didn't say that. That's not what those discoveries said. No. You didn't say that at all. And then when it comes to this whole idea about the Messiah, it didn't really just say the Dead Sea Scroll. It didn't tell you. It didn't. It didn't tell you that was a lie. It didn't. So I mean, I'm gonna continue to do my reading and things in next, but all that stuff about some Gnostic, man, it's a lie. That's a lie. See, that's what the Dead Sea Scroll mean. Is that what you trying to say? It is a lie. You lying. That's what it mean. That's what it really mean. It didn't mean that the Jewish faith was a lie. It mean that people like them so-called Gnostics. That's what you be doing, lying. You just be making up stuff. You be lying. That's what that means. Because when you even mention anything about God that far back, and we just got to talking about dualism, have you seen anybody say anything about the Dead Sea Scroll saying that, talking about some dualism? No, ain't nobody told you that. Because the Jewish, all these, Orthodox, and then you got what we read about Reform Judaism, Reconstruction Judaism, and all that. Conservative Judaism. I think it's what Orthodox Judaism, Conservative Judaism, Reform Judaism, and Reconstruction Judaism, and anything else. And so, amongst all the branches of Judaism, Nobody said nothing like that. They didn't. So you can just go on somewhere with that foolishness, because narcissism is a lie. That's a lie. Because see, the Dead Sea Scroll goes too far back. And when they found these different books, something about referencing a prophet or Messiah or whatever, the Dead Sea Scroll goes too far back. And they know each one. They were like books. All these various books. From the start to the beginning. And then when they found the book, they didn't find too many discrepancies between, the book that were like Book of Daniel or whatever. They didn't find no big difference in the Book of Daniel being written that far back to the first century. They ain't find no difference. They ain't find no difference. It's practically saying the same thing, word for word. Might be a scribble error somewhere, but that's how significant the Dead Sea Scroll find is. Is that if you're trying to say anything about Judaism being some kind of made up junk, that's what narcissism is. Some made up junk. Because see, during that period of time, the Dead Sea Scroll hadn't been discovered. And then that's the same thing about these fragments, these Septuagint fragments. See, when you try to make it sound like this, you making sense. It's just like New Age. What you making up that stuff for? You just lying. And see, that's the same thing about when the first, not first century, it was third century when took the throne, Constantine. They hadn't discovered the Dead Sea Scroll yet. The Dead Sea Scroll had not been discovered. So when Constantine took the throne and he was sitting there at the council of Nicaea, and all that doggone martyrdom, see, it's not just the New Testament, but it's the Old Testament. All this stuff about the Jews and the Romans fighting and all this. See, this is very important, significant about polytheism and dualism and all that. See, Constantine growed up under this Roman teaching, all that martyrdom and all that stuff. He took the throne. When he took the throne, became the emperor of Rome. He converted to be a Catholic. And there wasn't no syncretism involved. He got baptized and everything. And believed that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Messiah, and all that. So that's some serious stuff. It's serious. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scroll is very serious. Very serious. So I'm going to get ready to end today's video. I'm going to come back on my video. I'm going to stay on this. Because people trying to do stuff, just like we were talking about the so-called quote-unquote gang. The Lord's Stone disciples. See, that's what people did. They tried to go up. They tried to come behind other people. See? And try to lie. Yep, and Pepper Perry. Like I said, I'm going to keep on saying. That's who real. That's who true. And Jeff Fort, Chief Malik. That's who real. That's who true. And King David Bosdale and had it all started with the Black Disciple. That's who real and true. King David Bosdale. You can go on somewhere with that Larry Hoover nonsense. You can go on down the street somewhere with them. Because the only thing you're going to do is people going to retaliate on your ass. It's going to be retaliation. It's going to be revenge. You can take all that damn stupid growth and development nonsense with your gullible, naive ass and go on because you're going to get your ass killed. You're going to get your ass killed. I'm telling you. And all that damn black gangster new breed. Well, okay. You're going to get your ass killed. Talking about some better guidance. You bitches going to get your ass killed on these streets. It's going to be revenge. It's going to be retaliation. That's what it's going to be. Revenge and retaliation. You can go on somewhere with that stupid, out there in Los Angeles, California, with that stupid blood gang, crip gang shit. It's going to be the same thing. Revenge and retaliation. Because it's the same damn people. The same stupid damn people who were down here in Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Missouri, and wherever the hell else you came from. Going down out there to California, to Los Angeles, as well as other cities. You thought that damn narcissism was a way for you to bunch up together. Well, it's not. Only thing gonna happen is gonna be revenge and retaliation on your ass. Gonna get you back. It's gonna be payback. Lord Stone disciple is Lord Stone disciple. See, you can't stand on a lie. You ain't gonna stand on no lie. That's straight to the point. Straight to the point. You ain't gonna stand on a lie. Now you can call yourself trying to be violent, and that's the point I'm making. See, I'm hip to that. So being violent don't mean to be a crash dummy now. Don't mean to be no crash dummy. Cause see, time. Ain't gotta be no crash dummy. But ain't nobody taking nothing off you. Ain't nobody letting you get away. When we get ready to end today's video, again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis and the county of 7 state of Tennessee. Thank all my family, my support for you. Continue to support. And continue to pray that there be peace. There's a lot of wars being fought. And continue to pray that it be peace. I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, for all the blessings and the guidance He provide me as well as all of us with. And so, and then being that here in the United States of America, see, it's going to be an important election coming up. Federal elections, then you got state as well as local elections also being included. But for the President of the United States, if you are eligible to vote, then exercise your right to vote. That's a way for you to have a voice in the government. Cast your vote. Vote. That's what the key is. Vote in the upcoming election. You ain't got no but a couple of weeks, a few more days till the election day. So, you go ahead and cast your vote and support who you support. But it's important to exercise your right to vote. Vote. Because don't throw your voice away. Irregardless of your opinion, people can disagree. We agree to disagree. You got people who like Democrats or like Republicans or, just whoever the candidate. It might be federal election, state, local. People vote. Sometimes people being a local election, it might be some Democratic candidate. Then some in the state election, It might be some Republican candidate. Then in the federal elections, it might be over here and there. You might be Democrat and Republican. You know, just whoever you. But the most important thing is just vote. Don't have the point of view that not to vote, but vote. Vote. Irregardless of who you vote for, cast your vote. You know, and whoever wins, you know, but still, it gave you a voice in the government. And then it was a right. You wasn't no gun put in your head, or your vote didn't count, or somebody didn't count your vote. Your vote did get counted. You know, so cast your vote. Exercise your right to vote. You know, and think about it. You know, people have died trying to make so people can have the right to vote. You know, exercise your right to vote. Don't throw your rights away. You know, don't throw your rights away. And you know, we've been having some inclement weather. You know, it's that time of year. It's fall and hurricane season. We've been experiencing a lot of rain and stuff, and you know, it can, you know, that's with a hurricane. You know, we're gonna have all this rain, but we're not in direct path of the rain. We just get the wind blowing, then the water. You know, the rain come this way. But you know, the hurricane, and then it's gonna be some more hurricanes. You know, so, hey. But listen to the weatherman. All I can tell you, hey, when you hear the weatherman say, "Get up out of there, man," it's gonna be some bad weather. It's a good idea to get out of there. You know, it ain't nothing worth dying for, man. Material stuff can be replaced, but you can't replace your life as well. You know, in your life as well as your pet. You know, a lot of times we have these inclement weather. The pets, they suffer. You know, they suffer too. Take them with you. Don't leave behind. They part of the family. Put them in, you know, get in the car and drive on down the street, you know. But I'm going to get ready to end today's video. And till next time, you take care of yourself. Wish each and every one of you the very best. And just remember, all that Gnostic nonsense is a lie. The sorority, fraternity, the sohos and frat bitches, they was and is going around trying to mislead themselves as well as others with this stupid nonsense. Anal sex. Alright, hey. Leave that Gnostic nonsense, foolishness alone, man. Because they lying. They lying. Till next time, take care of yourself. Wish each one of you very best.